In this video, I will talk about the book Psychology and Alchemy by Carl Gustav Jung. And as of now, I know myself to be what Hegel calls reason, and also the negative, because the negative becomes reason, and reason must become spirit. And I will comment on passages, just the beginning for now of his book. And I will try to make the connection between Jung and Hegel, because Hegel is the connection with everything. He says that man in alchemy is confronted by the mystery, the enigma, not the mystery, the enigma of matter, and to confront the most burning mysteries of matter and the most solemn or serious mysteries of his spirit and his life. And that's a play with word, because spirit is burned by matter in a way, because it is that which inflicts pain, and spirit must overcome the path of suffering to become true to himself. So that's a Hegelian joke. The archetypes of alchemy, according to Jung, have helped shape the thinking, the thought, and the images and the imagination of science, philosophy, psychology, metaphysics, and religion. And in the pagan communities, in the pagan community in Europe, there's this idea that Jung had a knowledge of the collective unconscious, but my purpose is to unify the whole of reality, but starting by unifying paganism with Jungian psychology, which includes alchemy, with Hegel, and to make a coherent totality out of this apparently disconnected conceptual ordering. And the collective unconscious, as I see it, is the subconscious or the unconscious of God, remaining as veiled images within the minds of men. So through myth and through the collective unconscious, they have images of the unity of all things. And the purpose of philosophy is to transform the archetypes or the images or the representation of mythology or the collective unconscious into consciously conceptualized philosophical knowledge. So yeah. And here's what the beginning of the book says. The monumental work of Jung is partly dedicated to the archetypes. And we have archetypes. It's a word which comes from Plato. It's the ideas, what Plato called the ideas, which are the universals, the concepts of the objects. But as Hegel says, that in the mind of Plato, the ideas existed as separated from their embodiment in another sphere. Whereas the philosophy of Hegel, whose attempt is to reconcile the ideal and the real, the ideas of Plato are made manifest, and this is what Hegel calls Wirklichkeit, when a phenomenon is the revelation, the manifestation of the idea which lies behind, and therefore the inner and the outer, the idea and the phenomenon become one. And this is what happens in a mystical experience when the idea is made manifest. And the archetypes in alchemy or in psychology are ideas, philosophical ideas in the sense of Plato, made present in the realm of representation, images, and picture thinking. And the purpose of philosophy is to transform the archetypes into thoughts. And he says that the wealth of the work of Jung is incredible, and it has enabled to reshape and to restructure modern thought and modern spirit, and a questioning and an inquiring mind can find peace, maybe, or appeasement in the work of Jung, hopefully. He says that the field of alchemy is apparently absurd and nonsensical for a scientific mind, but the purpose of Hegel is to reconcile pseudoscience with science, to reconcile chemistry with alchemy, astronomy with astrology, and to rationalize through a conceptual and speculative understanding the irrational and the rational. And then he worked about, he made works and books about the collective unconscious. And the way I see things, the collective unconscious is the mind of God as a totality, left in the form of veiled images in the consciousness of men. And the past civilizations have left testimonies or marks of their knowledge in their myth. And the purpose of my view of cultural Hegelianism is to make the whole of reality intelligible, which means to find the rationality within all the myth and the images and the mythology, and to transform this into a full conceptual experience of reality. He says that to be confronted by the unconscious or the subconscious is an internal tension, and to try to study and to decipher or to decrypt alchemy is a form of satisfaction and happiness. And he says that from this, these are my words, I translate with my poor knowledge of English, this dusty and ununderstood mumbo-jumbo, that's the word I think of, namely alchemy, from this dusty mumbo-jumbo has sprung forth or burst forth in a unexpected detour, a dialectical twist, modern chemistry. And he says that images, symbolic images, are part of the alchemical mentality, and Hegel wanted to transform the images into concepts, and the words, the concepts were, in the mind of alchemists, unable to express what Hegel calls the concept, so they used images. But that's why alchemy is rational, because if you perceive the inner logical categories at work within the images and the representation of the alchemical mind, you find the philosophy of Hegel. And to simplify, the idea of the alchemist is to turn lead into gold. And the purpose of my view of things is to transform this empirical individual with all his flaws and all his wickedness into a spirit, a mental mind. And the transformation from lead to gold is the transformation from man or subhuman to overman in Nietzsche's philosophy, or the transformation of man to God in spiritual elevation. And my purpose as of now is to transform myself as being reason by negating the negative, to transform myself into spirit and to become one as a thinking entity beyond my limitations as an individual, become one with the totality of being. And he says that in a psychological treatment, the disease, the suffering person expresses his suffering through images, and the suffering person, if I might say, is God himself, and the world is a mirror of God, and the world suffers because God suffers. And what is the disease that God suffers from? God suffers from dialectics, which is a process of self-negation, and he can only cure his disease by rationally understanding the totality of himself, which is logic, nature, and spirit. and this is an individual and also collective process of self-understanding. And yeah. He says that it's an introduction to the religious and psychological problematique, not problem, but problematique, kind of inquiry or question of alchemy. He talks about the process of individuation, what in Latin is principia individuationis, the problem of becoming an individual, because when you are an individual, you are separated from the whole, you are confronted by a world which is alien to you at first, and you have to survive in this world, which is a harsh world, and you have to evolve and to develop and to transform yourself and to reconcile yourself with the world, and which is the most difficult task, but it is the task of my philosophy. And he says that the process of becoming an individual is connected to alchemy. And he said that it's difficult at first to imagine the link between both. And he says that this work is his contribution to the understanding and the conceptual grasping of the human psyche. And the way I see things, our psyche, our soul, comes from God. And I at least, my soul was, I don't know, that's a hypothesis, I'm not sure, but my soul was in unity with God, and my soul has descended onto earth, and the purpose is through a conceptual understanding of the world and of myself and of spirit, to become one with God again. And I can only liberate myself and liberate my soul by an ascending path of understanding. And on my path, I find thinkers, intellectuals, experiences which hopefully enable me to incorporate within my development the whole of reality. And my path as an individual is, I believe, the path of every other individual. Some do not make the intellectual work because they can't, or they don't want, or because God does not want them to, and they just have the belief that they will be reunited with God, and this is religion in the sense of faith. But me as an empirical individual, I need to understand and I need to reconstruct my unity with the divine through a process of negation. And yeah. He says that the human soul is obscure and mysterious. In the analytical process in psychology, there is a dialectical confrontation between the conscious and the unconscious, or the subconscious. And this dialectical process of interaction between unconscious and conscious leads to a goal. It's a progress towards a goal or an end. And I will stop there for now. I will continue because I have many things to say. But the way I see things, evil in the world is an unconscious manifestation of my inner self. Is it the self of this empirical individual, or is it the self of what I call my higher self, which is a transcendental principle, or God as I call it? I don't know yet, but the first step towards making peace with my own negativity is to acknowledge, by putting words on it, that it exists and that it is a part of me. And my first moment in my therapy, because I need a therapy, is to acknowledge that evil in the world, darkness in the world, is a reflection of my own darkness. I have said and understood it broadly, and now I must overcome the evil and the dark, and that's why I'm attempting to do, and I will continue making videos as long as I can.